Happy Halloween. No costumes?
I had to change
No?
mine.
Denise, what is Carter going to be?
So he has this, one of those like blow up things that you can get in, like where it's your body, and then from waist down, it's like a dinosaur. But you have to carry a fan to keep it like inflated. And so he's too skinny for it, and he has to hold it.
Wow.
He's like, my hand's tired. I'm like, yeah, it's because. So he's going to try to walk around the neighborhood. Salina has like, they go all out for Halloween. So
Oh, they
it's
do.
probably not, it's not going
Oh,
to last long.
because it's Book's neighborhood, right?
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
well, my older two, almost older three, they just want the candy. They don't dress up anymore. So at least you still have a little one that likes to dress up.
Yeah. Yeah. They're like almost at the age of going and hanging out with their friends and making out.
Okay. Yes. My oldest wanted to throw a party, and I was like, not happening.
She wanted to throw a party.
Yeah, like a Halloween party. She's a ninth grader. Like that's what they do. Don't
Oh
worry,
my,
I stay back there like when they're in the pool and I'm like, hand check, everyone's hands up. Let me see.
you do not.
I absolutely do.
God. Wow.
How's your month ending looking?
Good. We're busy. We are, I think this last week, our new application slowed down just a little bit, but our average, every week our average apps have stayed the same, but we're getting more contracts than usual this time of year. So
I was gonna say,
it's
is it
good.
refis too, or like what percent would you say is
Mostly purchase. We had
wow?
a little bit of a refi kick in September
Yeah.
when the rates came down. This is where I think we talked about this. Like, you have to have a refi strategy ready to deploy. And
Mm.
it's there so that when rates come down, you can deploy it and execute it and get in front of as many people as you can without telling them to like go online, apply, let me pull your credit. You won't have time, you won't be able to serve as many families if you do it in that way. There's a different way that you can go about it. So we did, and we ran that, we call it a refi analysis, so that every client could see if it made sense or not and pull the trigger and lock the rate. And so, of course, I think they call it Monday night quarterback. Like, we could show them all the people that were like, you know what, we're going to wait till after the election. Like, I'm sure all of you guys have people in your database
Mm.
right now that was like, yeah, we're going to wait. And it's like, okay, look what happened. I mean, it works to our favor. There was no way to predict it, but the ones that we could help, we went back and we're like, this is exactly why we told you to pull the trigger, because we don't know when we're going to see the savings. So take it. It's
Mm.
zero net cost. You know what I mean? But the whole point is you got to have a refi strategy ready, defined, in motion, so that when this happens again, you can deploy it.
Mm.
So
And is there any patterns or trends to your purchase apps? Like, are they first time home buyers? Or are they people relocating? Or is it kind of a mix of like,
it's
why would
definitely a
anyone?
majority of first time home buyers.
Mm.
Definitely right now, and that's nationwide. Um, But yeah, most are renting. They're tired of renting. Their rent's going up, and so that's also the easiest ones to convert right now. But we have a lot of people still relocating, not just because we're in DFW. We write loans in multiple states, but the grandparents want to live close to the kids,
Mm.
and so some of our marketing is designed around, if it's first time home buyers and grandparents that want to be closer to grandkids, then what bait are you using in your marketing? Like, everybody can go out and fish, and you can just dump stuff on social media or dump stuff in your newsletters, but if you're throwing saltwater bait in a lake to fish, you're not going to catch that many fish. And so you really need to audit your business and figure out where's the bulk of people relocating to where you actually live. And then are you designing your marketing and your content to be majority of that, since you know that those are the fish that are biting, you know? So I
How do
don't
they
think that,
figure that out? Like,
well, hopefully you have systems in place and questions in place that when you're talking to clients, you're you're using something. I know not everybody has a CRM, but we track the why of someone is starting the process now. Sometimes they're just starting so that they can get their ducks in a row for next year, which is fantastic. But if you don't know the motive behind why people are buying and you're not tracking that and assessing it, you don't have a super defined business plan. And I would call it a wishy-washy business plan. So if you have a wishy-washy business plan, you're going to get wishy-washy results. You can't expect to have great results with subpar business planning and marketing and assessing. And so I think that is one of the hardest things with our business is how to, we use all these different texts and systems but we're not really assessing where the bulk of our business, like we know maybe it comes from real estate agents or from this community, but what's the motive? And when you can track that, then you can figure out what pond to fish in and what bait to use. And you're constantly adjusting that every quarter because the business changes. So right now, even if you can't track it, I bet for the most of you, if you're getting a decent amount of purchase contracts, it's probably first-time home buyers, depending on what area in the market you're in. And so what are you putting out there? What are the biggest fears of first-time home buyers? Why do they disqualify themselves from even having a conversation? Are you still using language like call me to get pre-qualified, or like that's not inviting language to that age group? It's let's jump on a discovery call and chat through what questions you might have so we can plan for when you want to buy. But you're inviting a discovery call, not shoving a online application link and then having the call. You're not going to attract people into your world that way. So auditing, I know this is officially, I don't know if we actually kicked off today, but this is our last Nerd and Byrd Masterclass for the year. I don't know if y'all caught that, but obviously November is that last week is Thanksgiving, and then it's December is the holiday. So this is the last time you're going to get the Nerd and Byrd. I shouldn't say Nerd and Byrd together because obviously we'll be doing other things, but I just mean for the year. And so while we're on this topic, tomorrow is November 1st. That means we have 2 months left of the year. This is when most people let up, right or wrong?
Right.
Most people
cold outside, get a little lazy.
I think I read somewhere where the average American gains 6 pounds in the fall. And they also gain, I can't remember how much debt it was. I need to go back and verify it. But like this is the separation season. I don't know who coined that first. I think it was Grant Cardone, but now everybody uses it. But it's like you can either let up and get a little fluffy on your health, on your diet, your financial health, or you can stay super disciplined in the daily activity and pretend that it's March 1st. It doesn't matter if it's cold, hot, November, March, like your daily activity should be the same, quite frankly. But I think that's what we should get into is how has your business been so far? How was your month of October? Put in the chat on a scale of 1 to 10, 10 being the best effort. What would you rate your effort for October? 10 being left it all on the field. But what would you rate your effort? So we've got some 4s, 5s, 7s. We have a couple 10s and 9s. That's fantastic. 7, 6s. Yeah. Dustin said 10, which is great. So I think for the ones that are under 8, somebody said a 2. I appreciate y'all's honesty because you have to get real with yourself before we can make change or move. But what needs to change in your personal life or professional life for you to get to an 8, 9, or 10? You're not going to be at a 10 necessarily every day. I don't wake up every day like I can't wait to kick ass in the mortgage industry. Tom Brady didn't wake up every day and think I'm going to be the greatest of all. It's not every day, but you still get up. So what needs to change in your structure to feel like your effort level can be an 8, 9, and a 10? Anybody can speak up, or you can put it in the chat.
Well, I'll tell you.
Yeah.
For me, this is Melanie. Hi.
Hi.
Consistency. So I started the Win by Noon planner, which I know you guys use a similar thing. And I started in Q2 this year. And when I did, I was like, gung ho, let's do it. And I really think that I didn't see the needle move as much in Q2 as I wanted to. And so in Q3, I still did the same things, but I wasn't tracking quite as hardcore as I was. And I wasn't making my partner phone calls quite as hardcore. And Q3 is showing that. So my Q2 is much better than my Q3, but Q3 definitely is showing that I wasn't as consistent. So I'm going to change that this quarter.
What do you
Awesome.
think got in the way for you to not be as consistent?
My own self.
But meaning, did you use did you already have your plan?
I think I thought the needle would move much farther, much more quickly. And when it didn't, I was a little bit disappointed in that.
Yeah.
And so I think I don't think I ever had this conscious thought, but looking back, I think I was like, well, why would I do all of this effort and I'm not being rewarded for this effort? And I probably slacked off a little bit because of it. And that has shown.
Mm-hmm.
That right there is literally hitting the needle on the head. Because the reality is, this is what people don't tell you, is it takes 6 months or 180 days for you to do the single one most important daily activity, which we talked about last call. We can revisit that if we need to. Let's say for you, it's tracking. The reality is it would take you doing that for 6 straight months. That's 180 days. But our mind thinks like, gosh, I did this for 30 days. Where are my results? Or gosh, I did this for 90 days. Where are my results? And so it is literally human nature to go back to our comfort zone and like the easier, because it's hard and uncomfortable to track every day and not see the results, just to do the activity every day without getting the outcome. But if anybody was to tell you who's done this and has sustained it for a long period of time, even people who join our group, and I'm like, okay, here's what we need to do. And by the way, you're going to do all of this and you're not going to start seeing results for 6 months. Are you in or not? Because if you're not, if you mentally can't, I just would rather know that now, because it's going to take 6 months. And if anybody tells you differently, they haven't been doing this at this level for a very long time. There is no quick bullet, silver bullet. It doesn't happen. Not in
What I can
2024.
help in offering that, being gripped by your psychology, is what I do is I'll take my income from the previous year and I divide it by how many weeks I worked, right? I take 4 weeks off through the year. So 48 weeks, how many hours you work? Do you work 6? Do you work 10? And then you can figure out what your hourly worth is. And so then you're in these practices, as you were sharing, you don't see immediate results, but it's done over time. And then you can only really make assessments on it on a biannual or annual basis. If the practices that you're in, are they effective? Are they helping you expand? Or are they contracting? It's not something you can do on 30 or 60 or 90 days.
No, and you just don't have enough data and intel. And even at the 90-day mark, though, if you're not seeing some progress, then it's a skill set this is why the people you're associated with, your accountability partners or whatever groups that you guys are tied to, you might need someone to listen to your conversations, because then there's a conversion. You should see the needle move a little bit. If you're doing your daily power hours and you're calling the right people who have clients, that's the other thing I noticed is I was inspecting some loan officers' work, and I'm like, so what made you decide to call this agent? I pulled up their numbers in MMI, and I'm like, they've closed 2 loans, 2 buyer deals in a week and a half. So if your house was going to be foreclosed on in 60 days, and you had to close 5 deals in order to avoid your house getting foreclosed on, why would you call that real estate agent? Versus potentially, you know, if you're making warm calls and you're identifying your sniper list of who you're going to call every day, you might be a little bit more intentional with who you're calling, that they actually have buyers that they're serving. But sometimes we call people that just answer the phone and say yes to a coffee. But the ones that say yes to a coffee easier usually have the time for coffee. And I'm not saying like dismiss every agent. One of my top agents today was an agent that was a very low producer. I'm not judging them. I'm just saying, if you're assessing your business, we've got 2 more months. It's the holidays. You have a family, you have kids. Some of you guys are the breadwinner, some of you aren't. If you need loans to close in November and December and you don't have enough loans right now in your pipeline, I would go to this crazy space wherever you need to go to get the motivation. If you're money motivated, like what Dustin talked about, sure, doing your hourly rate. Some of you guys aren't necessarily super money motivated. So like, think about it literally, your family, most of the women I coach, it's like, I don't want to let my family down. That's their motive. That's what would get them up to do this business, this as hard as it is. And they're like, I know if I don't bring in this many loans, this was a live conversation. If I don't close this many loans, then my husband has to work this much in overtime every week. And I don't want my husband to work overtime because I want him home with our kids. So my focus is closing this many loans so that he doesn't have to work the overtime. He can be present, especially for the holidays. So imagine if you have to go to that space to stay just daily. I don't care what your big goal is. I just want you to focus on how many partner conversations do you need to have a day, and how intentional is the selection of that partner that you picked to call and invest time in, and how intentional is your conversation with them. Because you can very easily do the daily disciplines and check it off. You can get up and go to a gym every day and hardly even sweat, but you went to the gym. That's just checking it off. It's not going to create as much conversion of, okay, these are the people I'm calling. These are why I'm calling them. They've got 5 listings in this area. They all had price reductions. I'm going to call them to figure out, hey, my name's Denise, the mortgage nerd. Saw you have a listing at 123 Main Street. Is it still available? That's that Phil Jones formula of opener, mutual agreeable fact, easy to answer question. Is it still available? Yes. What's up? Awesome. I noticed that you recently had done a $15,000 price reduction. Can you tell me anything about the home? How's the home been performing? So part of the Phil Jones formula is OFQ, and then he goes into a past, present, future. So tell me a little bit about the home. How has it been performing? And now I'm just in a curiosity state with the agent. I'm getting them to talk. By getting them to talk, I'm building trust. And we know that realtors don't have a hard time talking. The problem is loan officers call agents and we do all the talking. Hey, my name's Denise. I'm from Benchmark Mortgage, and I have a really great program that's going to save you time or money. And I'd love the opportunity to go have coffee with you and show you what that is. And
Like,
that's literally the script that people have used for years. It's, I have this program, this tool, this whatever that's going to help you close X amount of loans in 90 days or X amount of buyers in 90 days. It's like, really? You're going to be able to do that? If that was possible, then why wouldn't you be in real estate selling houses yourself? That's what I say to insurance agents when they call me. Oh, I've got this thing and I can help you close 30 more deals a month. Yeah? Why don't you have your mortgage license? It's a bold guarantee. Better be able to back it up. But it's the same script and spiel, whether it's true or not. The problem is every agent's heard it and they don't believe it. They've conditioned to dismiss it. So all I'm saying is you got to do the daily activity. You got to show up being intentional. You got to know your numbers and know how many calls you have to make. You got to know, how many dials do I typically make in order to get this many people on the phone, to have this many partner connections, in order to get this many credit pulls, in order to get this many fundings. Everybody focuses on the funding goal. I want 20 loans. I want to close 5 loans a month. But nobody maps out the plan on how to get there, or reverse engineers the math on how to get there to the daily activity. How many dials do you have to make? And by the way, I'm not talking about cold calls, but it is funny what we deem as a cold call, I think, in today's world. Y'all know cold calls, like back in my day, is you would get a phone book and you would just call people. Now in our industry, we act like calling an agent that's hosting an open house that you don't know is a cold call. That's not a cold call. It's a warm call. We tell ourselves it's a cold call because cold calling is icky. We don't like to be cold called. So if we don't like the feeling of being cold called, then we're not going to like to make outbound calls because we don't want to make people feel icky. But the truth is that if you're using the Phil Jones script and you're using that curiosity standpoint, you're not calling to sell them anything. I'm calling you because I saw you had an open house. The price is listed at this. I have 1,000 buyers in my database right now that are pre-approved. And I want to know more about your home to see if I can connect a buyer to this property and we can both go under contract and have a win-win. Tell me about the home. That's not a cold call. Does anybody disagree with me? Truthfully. No one's saying anything in the chat, so I guess not. But you see what I mean?
I agree, because like I think it's like just changing your mindset. You know what I mean? It's like, instead of being like, oh, I'm gonna call them and try to sell them all this stuff, I'm just gonna ask them questions and throw it on them. So, and then just saying, okay, yes, and more. Just have them, come up with stuff to do. It's not a cold call. I mean, if you're just, I always kind of go into it like with the curiosity, because I'm actually interested if that house does sell, like as I'm going through it, and then, just keep talking to them. So.
But these activities that we're talking about, even if it's for 6 months, like, yes, you should be documenting the activities and measuring for conversion to see where you grow. But the whole Win by Noon planner was developed by Todd Bookspan, who this is what the top producers do regardless of what their production is doing. So it's not like you push on the gas for, 6 months and you do this and then you don't have to keep doing it to maintain. It's kind of like your analogy with working out for your health. It's something you have to do daily to maintain, as well as eating correctly for maintenance. This is like your business maintenance, which is why they called it Win by Noon, is because these are the daily activities that you commit that are time blocked, that you get done before noon. That way the rest of your afternoon could be for all the meetings that you're having or the fires that you're having to put out, getting back to leads, etc. So like when you theme the days and you follow the plan and you time block it and it's a non-negotiable that it's absolutely going to get done before noon, one, mentally you feel so free because you actually honored the commitment, but that your business depends on this, just like, your body depends on what you eat and how often you exercise for just overall health and wealth. So to me, this is something that you don't ever stop doing. And if Tuesdays you're doing your status update calls, then you're contacting agents, both the listing agent and buyer's agent, to give updates. Wednesdays, if you're doing protect the pipeline calls, then you should be contacting the agent to give them an update of that person who's been pre-approved. Thursdays are database days. So post-closing calls, quarterly calls for those in credit repair, or maybe those who decided to wait. And then you're also updating partner, so like if you follow the plan, your power hour of the number of conversations that you should be having with your partners should be easy to attain when you're also doing these, sales activities per day. I mean,
here's the thing is, almost everybody January 1st, what's their New Year's resolution?
For consumers
Huh?
or for consumers or loan officers?
Humans, all humans.
To lose
Lose
weight.
weight. Everybody January 1st is like, I'm going to lose weight. And all of a sudden you have all these people at the gym, and the second Friday into January, they coined it. It's like drop dead weight or something, where 2 weeks in, you have a 50% drop off from that January 1 high level of commitment. If I'm going to do this. So it's like, what I want to do is get really real and raw, because y'all know that between Deborah and I, we have no shame in our game. Like you can't say anything dumber than we've not said publicly or on stage, or
Hey,
we're not the sharpest tools in the shed. We keep it real. Like we came from nothing. There's no peacocking in this group. So what I want to know is, like, when it gets after the 2 weeks where your high wears off, because we know that we need to be doing this every day. The problem is we can't stay consistent and disciplined in doing it. Some of you guys mentioned discipline. Bridget, that's the number one thing I hear from people is I'm going to commit to be disciplined and consistent. And you will be for 4 days, 5 days, a week, 2 weeks, maybe 30 days, but you're not seeing the results. So what I would want to do is invite you to, like, let your brain for a second go search for, what are you going to do to prevent yourself from letting a day slip by, and then 2 days slip by, and then 3 days? Like, what change needs to be there? Is it a post-it note that needs to be on your computer? Is it that you need an accountability partner? Like, what is it that's going to prevent? Because we're almost in November. You know you need to be doing it. You're not doing it. We know it's the consistency and discipline that we need. But unless somebody's on your ass every day, like forcing you to show up to the gym, it's easy to slip. So that's where you guys need to think about, what boundaries am I going to put into place? And maybe Dustin, I think you said that you had psychology background or whatnot, but like, that's what I can't figure out to help people is, but what do you need to do to make sure that you don't slip and you don't fall into those people after the 2 weeks?
You called
Well, I
my
think
name out, so I'll just offer for consideration. I do not have a psychology major. But I've been in this business for 24 years, and I'm in a part of an ongoing like business philosophy school. I have a little bit of a list because I have, what is that, Invisalign in my mouth? So pardon me, one more week.
We feel you. Deborah and I have both, like, when you have to take it out and you have the spit, like, dude, we've so been there.
For sure. It all ties to one fundamental thing, and that's your ambition. Your ambition for the sake of, why are you doing this? And what do you want out of life? If you lose your ambition, then you lose focus on everything else. Everything starts with that, number one, just for consideration. So
how do you help somebody strengthen, or can you help someone strengthen their ambition?
I don't know if it's a matter of strengthening their ambition, because everyone's ambition is different. Like, what are your goals in your life? What do you want to do? Right. And when you say you want to, if you're the main supporter of your family, well, everything for me, from my point of view, does tie to money. Because tell me the last time you walked into a grocery store to get a gallon of milk and said, I don't have money, I'll pay you back next week.
Right.
Can't take it, right? So
right.
How much does it cost to run your household? How much does it cost? Like, those are the survival expenses. And then how much is it for the intermediate expenses, like tires and insurance and roof repairs? And then beyond that is your luxuries, the buying the nicer cars, the bigger vacations and things like that. So you have a number to hit, because not knowing what your numbers are or what your goals are is an endless, like you'll never be fulfilled. And so when you know that number, then you can work it backwards. As far as like the practices you should be in every day. And the reason why I mentioned your hourly wage is because not only is it then assessment of how well you're doing on a quarterly, semi-annual, or annual basis, but then also some of the things that you're doing that someone else could be doing, because it's not worth the time that it's taking you to do based off of your income.
Yeah. And I think that's, Brittany brought up just a second ago that for me, it's the struggle of getting bogged down in the day-to-day BS and task that then it drains her part of the day that you should be using your superpower, your highest and best use activities to ultimately generate more. And that sometimes that issue right there, which in the mortgage space, I see it a lot, whether it's a single loan officer or a loan officer that's at the brink of needing an LOA, but then you hire the LOA and you won't delegate and you won't accept that someone might do your task 80% as good as you would do them. Maybe they're not going to be as good, but in order for you to grow and scale, they can do it 80% good. And over time, hopefully they can end up doing it better than you. Everybody on my team now can write loans better than me. Literally everybody. All of you guys probably.
One day a week. I didn't mean to interrupt you, but this is to compliment you. I still write down, this is half-hour time blocks. What did I do? And then I'm like, well, could someone else have been doing that? And maybe they could have, but I enjoy doing that. But you just consciously see how you're.
But could you hire somebody to do it? Like, is your hourly wage, should you be, this was an old school term because none of us are hopefully standing by copy machines anymore, making copies of stuff. But like, if you're standing at the copy machine making copies, is that worth your hourly rate? Or could you actually delegate that to somebody else to free up some time? And to Dustin's point, we have a time tracker sheet where I've got a couple of loan officers in our group and they are severely ADD and they get distracted. And so sometimes if you're working in Encompass, and we all know what the spinner wheel is, if you work in Encompass, all of us know what that little dial is. That's us waiting on Encompass to do anything. And so if she's waiting for credit to get pulled, what does she do? She pulls up her phone. And then she's like, oh, let me just scroll Instagram for a second because I have at least 60 seconds and we're multitasking. But then all of a sudden that 60 seconds went down a rabbit hole and that was actually 11 minutes. And then she got a text. So she had to respond to that text. And then you get back to your file and you're like, wait, what was I doing? So when you actually track your time and your activities, we call it the task tracker. I can send you guys a copy of it. It is insanely eye-opening to it's annoying. I don't like tracking stuff. I have to track my food. I've been tracking my food since June 1st. Everything that I eat goes into my Fitness Pal and I track everything. And I am not one of those kinds of people. So it's not comfortable. It's not comfortable to track your task, but you literally will put like 8 a.m. started checking email. And then 8:15 went to the bathroom. 8:17 got on our win of the week call. 9 a.m. surfed the internet for a little bit. Like the more honest you are with your task, then you can dissect it over maybe a week. Where are you spending your time and where should you delegate? And are those tasks what you should be doing? And are you with a company that can delegate some of those things off your plate so that you can grow and scale? Because that's problems that I hear from people is like, well, my company won't give this person to me, or so I'm doing all of this. Like these are, this is evaluation season. You're auditing all things of you personally, and you have to be humble enough and hold yourself accountable enough and have people close to you to point out opportunities where you can get better. You need to be auditing yourself, auditing your workflows, auditing your CRM and the messages that are going out. And then auditing your team, your company, your culture, whatever, like, so that you can be prepared for 2025. I do think 2025 is going to be a busy year. I actually don't think interest rates are going to fall dramatically. I think it's going to be a little bit, but I think this election has caused people to be so frozen because nobody knows what's going to happen. And so finally, when this is over, no matter who you vote for, I don't care. I'm not getting into politics, but it'll finally be behind us and, Christmas will pass. And then it's like, okay, there's no more reason to wait. We've been in this state now for a couple of years. The election's over. So some of that just in itself is going to cause people to re-enter the market. Is ambition what your why is?
answer to that. I don't know what the why is, but I think so. Right? It doesn't have to be ambition. It could be your why.
I don't think so. I think your ambition is what fuels. It's the fuel for your why. Like if it was a rocket ship, your rocket ship's the why. But like you could want to leave a legacy to your kids, and that's your why. But if you don't, have the ambition to actually make it happen, it's just
I like that. Yeah, I follow and agree.
yeah. I mean,
What if it's they have the ambition, they know their why, but they're spending too much time getting ready and like getting ready to get ready and then learning new business
Yeah.
tactics and perfectionism and then comparisonitis. And so, it's that wheel that I see a lot of people on, that they are constantly mentally beating themselves up, that they know they need to be doing more. Once they feel like they're ready to do more, it's never good enough to then actually execute. It's
that's where, yeah, there's, when I graduated college, one of the first companies I worked for, it was like a boiler room style. We had to make 400 dials a day, 400 calls. These were cold calls. I'm very aware of what a cold call is. Someone was shopping online for a bowling ball, and that was my lead to sell them something. Like that's
I
definitely,
lasted 30 minutes at this company, guys, like 30
it was
minutes.
tough, but the company had, and this is where I think some mortgage companies are migrating to this, but you need personal and professional development in your life. Most of the time when people hear personal development, they think like therapy or counselors, which normally only happens like marriage counseling or family counseling, but like there is a such thing as your own personal development. That doesn't mean you have to go talk to somebody, but that means like, what are you listening to? What podcasts are you listening to? What books are you listening to? It's not just professional development. If you have those traits that what Deborah's talking about, that's more in the personal wheelhouse within your mind of overcoming that comparisonitis or not being good enough, or I finally hit my 5 loans a month, but feeling unsatisfied. That's that personal discovery that if you don't treat that as important as your professional development, you could make a lot of money in this business and you will be left feeling so unfulfilled. And that's totally fine if that's the life you want to live. Again, we're not here to judge, shame, or any. That could be that life could be amazing to you. But if you're like, I am making enough money and I'm doing these things, but I'm not feeling fulfilled, I would challenge what you're doing, how much time or money you're spending and investing in personal development. Like how many mortgage companies are there? I've seen them all recently, like sales rallies, and our company just had a summit. And I'm like, but what mortgage companies have a personal development summit? It should be equally as important as the professional side, because the truth is the better you can overcome those kinds of things, it'll translate into your business. So to give it a tactical, this was a LOA on my team. Yesterday we had a meeting and he was allowing himself to feel stress and anxiety if he didn't get to a certain task within 15 or 20 minutes. And if we push that task, kick that can down the road because it actually wasn't an urgent task that needed to be done, his brain it was still being kicked down the road, and that created stress and anxiety for him. And so what he was feeling is at the end of the day, he felt exhausted. He felt like he's been working 12 hours a day. And I'm like, well, hang on. We've taken more things off of your plate. How can you still be feeling this way? We're not even in like the summer months. And so we had to peel those layers back. And it's like, actually, all this energy that you're self-creating, that this has to be done this way, or I have to double check it, or you're self-creating that and you're exhausting yourself. And you're paralyzing yourself to move on to these other tasks because you feel the need that you have to get to this right away. Loan officers do the same thing. I think I shared this last time. My loan officers would say that they struggled committing 60 minutes to a power hour because they started to feel the stress and anxiety of what if an agent or a client texts me and I don't respond back to them right away? Does anybody feel stressed out if they're like, oh my gosh, I've been away from my phone for an hour? Yeah, a lot of us do. And so is there anything that's actually dire that's going to happen in the next 60 minutes in the mortgage space if you don't respond to a real estate agent's text message about what the max seller contribution is on this home that they're making an offer on? Our fear is that if we don't respond fast enough that we're going to get fired or that they're going to find somebody that's more responsive than we are. And that's a self-belief issue, because if you believe that you offer more value than just being easily accessible and available, you can certainly take 60 minutes to respond. Now, you have to show up with more value. In the meantime, there is a hack that you can do, and you can turn your driving setting mode on and customize the message so that even if you're not actually driving, you can turn that focus on. And mine says, oops, I'm currently conducting a buyer consult. I'll get back with you as soon as it's done. And just knowing that that's there, it puts my mind at ease and I can stay focused on the most important thing. Or if you're meeting with a real estate agent, be very present in that meeting where you're not constantly looking at your phone, which is so rude, that you're giving them the undivided attention. But sometimes these things are renting space in our head and we don't think that it's as energy draining as we think it is, but it is. And at the end of the day, you're like, God, I'm so exhausted. But you're not exhausted because of the tasks you have. You're exhausted because of the self-creation and things that you allowed. So I don't want to get on a preaching session, but don't discount, like, when you're setting up you're defining your plan over the next 60 days and you've got your calendar out. I hope all of you guys, it's the 31st. Quite frankly, this should have already been done, but if it's not, it's okay. I want you to print out 2 calendars. I want you to print out November, like on an 8.5 by 11 sheet of paper, print out November's and print out December's. I want you to write down, those of you that are in Nerd Academy, you should have your numbers, but I want you to write down how many partner conversations do you need every single day? And I want you to pick a day in the week. I want at least 30 minutes a day over the next 60 days for you to devote to personal development. That could be a Mel Robbins podcast. If you want ideas on that, Deborah's like the queen of personal development. So, but pick a day.
How many minutes, Denise?
At a minimum 30 minutes, at least once a week. And so that might mean you're driving to the office. That might mean the 30 minutes that you're on the treadmill instead of listening to music. But you need to be putting positive fuel into your brain, not just sales fuel. I'm telling you, it's important. So when you're defining your 30 days and you're defining your November, you're going to put down, okay, what days am I going to be off and totally plugged into my family for Thanksgiving? Mark those days out. If that's the case, how do you need to tweak your partner combos? Because it's a shorter month. And then when you actually hit your goal of your partner combos, I want you to put a big red X in that day. And the goal is to have an entire calendar with red X's. And at the top, you put, don't break the chain. It'll start to look like a chain link fence. And that will help you stay committed and consistent. I don't want you to focus on what results am I getting from this. The results will come. Sometimes it comes faster for others and not for others, but you're going to commit to it for 6 months. And if you can't commit to it for 6 months, ask yourself, is this the job you want to be in? There's other jobs that you could have that might pay the same amount that your year-to-date pay stub shows today, depending on what you've done. That's not as grinding. We are in the season of grinding. So I'm going to end with this, and then Deborah, I'll let you take over. But 2020 and 2021, we didn't have to hunt. We weren't like loan originators that had to make necessarily phone calls. They were still hard years because we were busy as crap. And those who have been in the business for a long time, like, God forbid you didn't get to a past client fast enough to help them refinance. And then you create the stress that like, they're going to think I'm a horrible lender. I was great on the purchase and horrible on the refi. And I got to get to as many clients as I can. But we weren't like in hunting season. This season we're in now, and the season that it'll be for 2025, and the reason why so many loan officers have got out of the business is the seasons have shifted to now this being a hunting season. It's not my favorite season to be in. There's about 4. This is the hunting season. I think it's the worst season. We have to grind. We have to focus. We have to do the daily stuff. Like, it's kind of like those extreme athletes that once they get to their weight and their muscle mass, like, it's a little bit easier once you get there to maintain your calorie intake and your physique because you've already got there. But this season, we're in grinding. It's like we're trying to lose 100 pounds. And so you're putting it in every single day. The seasons will shift. This too will pass. It's longer than what we thought it was going to be. But I can promise you, I've been in this business for 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23. Holy cows. That can't be right. Since 2007. Anyways, a long time. I've seen the seasons. I got into it in 2006. Company went under, went to a bank, got back full-time into it 2012. I've seen the seasons. We will progress out of this season, but this is the hardest, shittiest, worst season of the mortgage business because it's the hunter season. So you got to stay super focused on your daily activity. And you got to look at it month by month, chunk by chunk, and just stay super consistent, knowing what the most important activities you need to do. All the other things are distractions. I'm not saying that they're not valuable at some point in time. But if you're in the business where you need to be closing loans now, it is the single most important thing that you need to be paying attention to. And then we layer. Then we add doing social media videos. But if you're spending 2 hours a day creating a reel to avoid making phone calls, or if you spent 2 hours longer than you needed to on a pre-qual to avoid making your calls, that's in here. You're actually avoiding the work that you need to do. And until you get real on why am I avoiding it? What steps do I need to do to change it? And if I do make those changes and I hit these goals, what will that do for me and my family? Who in your family will you let down if you don't do it? Spend some time thinking through that today so that when you make your November and December calendar, you get those boundaries in there of like, nope, I woke up today and I felt like crap and I don't want to do it. I don't want to make these calls but you do it anyways because it's hunting season. Anything you would add to that, Deborah?
Yeah. I really like what David Nelson, what you recently shared in the chat. I don't know if you want to unmute and share publicly, but I think this is a very big missed opportunity. And just recently, I've been obsessed with asking like my kids, their parents, and when I'm at ball games, I'll talk to them because I'm getting insight all the time. And it amazes me how often people will remember their real estate agent, but they have no clue they can't remember who their loan officer was at all. And so David, are you still here? Are you on?
Yeah, I'm here.
Do you want to share a little bit about what you just put in the chat and why you shared that?
Yeah, I think it's really easy to get caught up in the day-to-day things of what you have to do next. And so a lot of times we can get on calls and we're thinking, oh, I still have to do X, Y, and Z. And that's what you're focused on. And so you're kind of half-assed paying attention to what's going on. And to the client on the other side, this could be one of the most important phone calls because they could be a first-time home buyer or they could be buying their first rental property. You're the expert. And if you're only, 1 foot in the door, then it's really easy to get distracted and you just go through the motions and then you get off the phone call and you think back to it and you're like, well, that sucked. And then later on, if they decide not to use you, then you know, you can oftentimes go back and say, well, why? And then you think, well, that phone call sucked. I was not personally invested into that. I didn't care what they had to say. And, you know, it's easy to also have kind of a checklist of, here's the questions I want to say, but sometimes we have to really stop and listen and actively listen to what is important to them, because I might think that building wealth, building equity, tax deductions on a home is the most important thing, but it's not. I mean, and sorry to go on a tangent here, but Lending Tree recently did a survey with potential home buyers and the top reasons why they wanted to buy a home. And some of the top reasons were stability, you know, and, you know,
A place for their dog. That
place
was
for their
ahead
dogs.
of, I saw it. That was ahead of the financial wealth, was literally shelter for their dog.
Yeah. And so that shocked me, because in my mind, in my LO mind, I'm thinking numbers, I'm thinking figures, I'm thinking, let's help them get wealth equity. Let's help them be homeowners. I'm not thinking about the stability. I'm not thinking about a place for their pets. But to them, that's the most important thing. And so I think we just have to refocus on actively listening, asking the right questions, connecting with them, not just on a financial level, but on a personal level, and getting to know them as a person, because we all want to feel that connection as a human being.
Well, and especially with AI and even social media, I've started to call it artificial intimacy. And Denise would probably share that. I know she has shared this before, but I am a little bit more of the emotional twin. And I would always press on people when I would hear this, you know, tagline or value statement of, we help people build wealth through real estate. And I'm like, hold on a second. One, not everyone's thinking about wealth. Like, you have to have money usually to think of wealth. And a lot of people are thinking of debt and how do I get out of debt? And I'm living paycheck to paycheck. And so that's not always the motivator that's going to be like, okay, this LO is for me because they're going to help me build wealth. It's like, for some, they want generational memories in the home. Like, they're projecting and thinking like, where is the nursery going to be and what color are we going to paint it? And so oftentimes we see a lot of content or education that's like using Mortgage Coach or MBS Highway, and it's very data number driven. When I'm like, don't forget to also show the videos. And I prefer this to be captured from your clients. That's a whole different marketing strategy where it's content they create. But it's like, show the video of the toddler throwing the sippy cup on the floor for the 100th time. And there's, you know, milk that splatters a little bit, or, you know, a kid taking its first steps, or just those magical moments and memories that home and tradition and stability and security and status and these emotional wants, not just the physical wants. But if you don't emotionally connect, to me, that's the biggest missing piece of most people's brand. Is it's very logical. And we often will ask a lot, like, you know, what do you think about this? And it's like, I want you to get them to feel. If they don't emotionally connect, you are not going to create a memorable brand or experience for them.
And here's the thing is, most mortgage people are logical beings, not necessarily emotional beings. It's like most CPAs but I honestly feel like, to David's point, number one, I think when I still hear people today saying we help you build wealth with real estate, I actually think it's extremely tone deaf. It's a true statement that real estate can, but majority of people and Americans right now are living paycheck to paycheck, and they're in debt and their credit card balances are going through the roof. And here you are talking about wealth. I'm just trying to save some money, let alone wealth. So I think that there's some tone deafness going on in our world. And I think largely it's because we haven't been taught how to listen and how to be empathetic, and how does somebody that might be more logical show up in a intimate curiosity type framework with our clients. My selfish plug is that there's an entire lesson in our Mortgage Nerd Academy that walks you through how to do that. There's a specific formula, but I actually think that we hear the words, we need to be more intentional on the call. We need to listen better. We need Like we hear it, but most of us don't know how to do that. And if you don't believe me, ask your spouse. Because your spouse might be able to tell you what are the quality of questions you ask your spouse at the end of the day. Like if you genuinely give a crap about the day, is it just, hey, how was your day? It was good. It's the same thing with clients. We get into this motion of like, all right, why are you looking to buy? Like you get into this routine, and it's human nature, but how do we break the routine? How do we treat it like it's the first conversation we've ever had with this person? And here's what I'm going to tell you. This situation happened a couple weeks ago. It actually really pissed me off. I'm not going to tell you the bad parts of the conversation, but it was within our company. We had a client reach out to us and they said, hey, I'm selling my house in Dallas, Texas. We're buying in Colorado. I got a quote from a lender and I showed it to my agent here in Texas because I was a listing agent. Again, they're buying in Colorado. I showed it to my agent and I thought it was high. And she told me that you're her go-to person. You should look at it. Never met this client ever. But the listing agent looked at the fee sheet and it was in like 8% rate with $12,000 in points. So immediately I'm like, this was a couple weeks ago. Like something seems off. It doesn't seem like it's marked as a primary home or something. So we get on the phone with the client. We remain curious. We're asking questions. What's making you move to Colorado? He worked at Costco. Is Costco moving you to Colorado? So I share this with you because the other lender that was in Colorado pegged him because he qualified buying this house without selling his. So however he filled out the application must have been wrong. And so the client thought that this was a second home, or the loan officer thought it was a second home. So the loan officer, because they didn't ask questions or remain curious or whatever, the guy ends up going under contract, actually quotes him in not even correctly because we didn't ask questions. And guess what? He lost the deal to us because we marked it as a primary. So of course, any rate that we showed at that point, they thought we were a hero because it was a primary interest rate without all the points. But it all boiled down to that loan officer probably today thinks that he lost that deal because of rate, because his rates suck. When the truth is, your ears suck. You're not even asking the right questions or listening. And we even asked the client, he was like, I just felt like they didn't really ask me any questions. I just filled out the information to the best I could. And so sometimes we have this story that our rates suck and we got shopped in, and it's like, but you might not even be comparing apples to apples of loan programs because you're quoting conventional and this person quoted FHA and the client got a much better rate and better payment, didn't care about rolling in the MI, the FHA. And it's like, because they asked questions. So to David's point and to what Deborah's saying is, I think that we actually lack the skill set in 2024 because of so much automation. And we almost don't know how to ask thought-provoking questions, and we don't know how to listen. Like, I think that that's a real thing.
Can I ask about a specific question?
Yeah.
Okay, so if you're talking to a first-time home buyer and you're trying to, I guess, do you ask the question? I've asked before, like, how long do you intend to stay in the house? And it always is kind of awkward when it's a first-time home buyer because they're like, I don't know. I don't know. Is there a different way to word that, or do you ask that, or what are your thoughts about that?
It truly comes down to the flow of the conversation. Normally, our flow starts with what's making you look now. We look to see, are they renting? Usually in the handoff email from the agent, they've indicated whether or not they're renting or not. Sometimes they live with family members, so we don't want to just assume that they're renting. But in our discovery call, it's just like, tell me a little bit about yourselves and, your family, and do they have kids? Do they not have kids? And then what's making you look to buy a home now? What's making you look specifically at Frisco, Texas? Tell me a little bit about your jobs. Do you like your job? Do you think you're going to stay with your job? Like, it just depends on the direction of this is where the skill set of listening that I watch within our group. every week they have to send, this is only if you're within our division, but they'll send me the recordings of their client calls and partner calls, because I have to see what you're listening to, and then what your question tree, that's what, like, where does your brain think to ask the next question? I have to see that live interaction to see if you're listening and like asking good questions. And we have to do that together to show you, okay, they just said this and your mind just went very logical. Your mind went, I'm thinking about all these other tasks that I have to do. And so versus staying in that state. And sometimes we need it live. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I feel like sometimes I try to make it, I'm like telling myself, okay, make it conversational or whatever. And then I just start getting into the friend zone. And then at the end, I'll hang up and I'm like, crap, I didn't ask them, like, where's their money for clothes? It's like we got into the friend zone.
And then so many women get in the friend zone.
A really good question that you can ask on every single client, and this is something that we teach with exactly what to say, is, and it builds off the past. So when Denise mentioned past, present, future, it's what is your experience with home buying? Because that is that answer could then give you so much context in that one question. This could be their first time ever buying, or maybe they bought a home back in 2008 and then, they lost the home and they've never thought they've been able to buy again because of their credit. And now this is their first time buying again. So like, you really can cover a lot of ground learning about that. And then what is your experience with finance? Like maybe they've never bought a home, but what is your experience with financing things like a car? Maybe that's all they've ever financed. But the more context you get from their answer, imagine if they said, well, I've never, bought a home, but I recently financed a car and that was miserable. And I found out my credit was pulled 20 different times. And so there could be this huge fear of getting their credit pulled. And then, the commitment of a car loan is what, 5-6 years. I'm scared to death because I'm a Gen Z person who still rents my clothes. Am I really going to have to commit to a 30-year term? Like there's a lot of fear associated with that. And am I responsible enough? Am I worthy enough for this? And so asking more strategic questions, one, not only for you to seek understanding, because a lot of times y'all have seen and heard, like y'all know the answer or the ending to the story. You generally know the solution, but it's more for them to feel understood versus you always having to seek to understand. So asking those questions can oftentimes be more for them to walk away being like, wow, I really feel like they get me. And so a good habit to adopt is before you ever go to give advice, my challenge to you all is ask 3 more questions. And that's with any area of life, because we're quick to give advice and solutions when you may not have all the context. And so you've got to get in the mess with them and let them feel like it's you guys versus the problem, not you versus them. And about rate or fees, it's like, we're here to help. Like it may not be a good time for you to buy. I don't know. I'd have to ask you some questions. I have to learn more about your situation, your goals, all those things. And be open to not being the solution. And I think that's the hardest part, is you have to emotionally detach yourself from the outcome. Otherwise, you have a motive for commission and you have commission breath. And you can be quick to give advice because you're focused on what you want. You want them to apply. You want the credit pull. You want the pre-approval letter to go out. And ultimately, you want the contract and you want to wow that agent. And it's all about you. And they can feel it.
The only way to get better at this, y'all, is to record your conversations. I know that sounds weird. Even if it's just you watching the recording, it's a little bit weird when it says this is being recorded and you're talking to a client. But if it's on the phone, or record it and watch it, it's no different than watching film if you were an athlete. But we don't typically see it real time. So again, you'll just go through the motions and a day will pass by and a week will pass by. And this is where we have to start measuring your conversion. If you're doing the daily activities, but your numbers aren't there, it's likely in a skill set situation and it's likely in your consults. likely. And so the more you can record them and then watch them, have someone that you know, like, and trust and respect watch them to give you feedback, that's where you are going to learn the most about yourself and how you're listening. It'll make you a better parent. It'll make you a better spouse because you'll see your blind spots. Sometimes you can't see them, but you'll be like, oof, they just asked me. They just said that they really want to buy a place for their dog. And I didn't even ask, like, oh my gosh, what kind of dog do you have? We just go, oh yeah, that's great. Do you want like 4 bedrooms or 3 bedrooms? Like, do you give a shit that I have a dog? I just told you I have a dog. You know what I mean? Like, so sometimes you can pick up on that and sometimes you can't, but my best advice to you is try to record everything and watch your film and then have someone that you really respect watch it as well. So.
Can I ask a slightly unrelated question before we go?
Yeah.
Okay, so I know you guys talk a lot about different tools that we can use and different, especially tech tools. And I guess my question is, like, somebody said something earlier today about how they're always getting ready to get ready. And I feel that way. And I think I get bogged down in, oh, I should have this and I don't have this, so I'm not as effective. Like mortgage coach. I don't have mortgage coach and it's expensive. And it's like, oh, well, I would be so much better if I had mortgage coach, but you're only as good as the things that you actually use. So I guess my question is, what are the most important things and how do I know what I really need right now and not? Because like Nerd Academy, you pay for, I was
gonna say, are you in? I feel like you're in Nerd Academy, right?
Yes.
Have you done where are you in it?
I have watched up to lesson 3 and I'm sending you homework on 1 and 2 right now.
Okay.
I know there's a tech tools one. I'm sure I know that I'm not there yet.
Everything in Nerd Academy you can do with a napkin and piece of paper. You don't even need mortgage coach. You don't need any subscription, to be honest. Maybe Zoom. But
I am that way. I love that thing.
Does mortgage coach help? Sure. But in that lesson, I show you a Microsoft Excel version of mortgage coach.
Okay.
It's free in Nerd Academy. You can swipe and adapt and use. And so, but part of what you're telling yourself is a narrative to avoid doing what you need to do.
Oh, I 100% agree.
So you've got to put something in motion that says, when my brain starts to go there, that what do I do to turn that off? The truth is everything Nerd Academy, every day I'm making tweaks with how to make Nerd Academy even better. It's always I'm operating as the best I can be today, but the goal is to always get better and better and better. So don't stress out that you're not the best version of you to your client or with the best tools, or the goal is you can't be perfect. The goal is the progress towards perfection. But you could do what I teach in Nerd Academy on a napkin with a crayon.
Okay.
Because what you're doing is you're educating and informing them. Yeah, most everything else is free, like pulling up Mortgage News Daily, looking at interest rates. Sure, you could use MBS Highway, which costs freaking money, or just go to Mortgage News Daily site and show the client the same thing. You got to show them their options. You could write it down on a napkin. Here's option 1, interest rate, option 2. Here's your OB rate board. Now I'm going to show you the options. Now here's this break even. You don't have to even do it that way. How your conviction is when you deliver the solution for them, it's a layer of how much they're going to trust you. But there are tech tools, and we do talk about the tech tools, but they all cost freaking money. So
that we're not making enough of yet.
I think it also depends on what's most important to the person that you're talking to, because I think we assume everyone's going to shop us on rate. And so we immediately project our like template mortgage coach of like, here's your 4 options. And it's like, you could be doing a lot of work for people that if you just ask more strategic questions and let them feel heard and uniquely seen and understood, like that is like customer loyalty and stickiness is going to come around to those who go deepest with their client to make them feel like you get them. It's that whole show me that you know me button. And for a lot of people, depending on their, like if it's an engineer type and you get the sense that they could benefit and they're wanting and they would find value in a mortgage coach or some kind of visual assessment that shows cost over time, then that's where this is the whole point of going deeper up front to learn more about what your client cares about, what's also going on in their world at this time. Because if you're doing a lot of move up, like people are in that age group, they're time poor. So like if you're sending me a bunch of stuff I got to look at, like I'm the type that's like, just tell me where I need to upload stuff and tell me what to do. I don't have time. Like I'm contacting you as the expert. I don't want to see a bunch of options. You just tell me what I need to do. You're the professional. I'm trusting you because I'm busy. I've got a family of 6 and we're trying to sell a home, but like, so I think sometimes we assume or we try to create these cookie cutter paths for everybody. When truth be told, you should have several different presentations because you're and
That's
several different
true.
values.
That is true to a degree, but especially to the busy people, that's why in your upfront consults, you have to prove why this busy mom of 4 kids actually should give a shit about the largest purchase that you're going to make in your life. And you shouldn't treat it like it's just a car loan. It's not just a car loan. But the average person, if you ask the average person, like let's say you have a mole on your leg and it doesn't look good. You ask the average busy American right now that doesn't have time, can I just send you a picture of the freaking thing and text it to you and you tell me if it's cancerous? And the doctor's like, sure, that might be easier for you. And that would be convenient for you. But let me explain why we might want to slow down a little bit, because you might want to come into the office and we might want to do this and we might want to do this because this could happen and this could happen and this could happen. And then God forbid, it is cancerous, but I couldn't see it through so in that upfront process, especially to the avatar that Deborah's describing, a lot of consumers, and it's going to happen more and more and more over the next few years, will think of us like a lender of getting a car loan. No one wants to talk to somebody to get a car loan. Why do I have to talk to you to get a mortgage loan? Just send me my stuff. Well, let me explain to you why you might want to spend 15 minutes and have a conversation about your home purchase. There's a lot. Have you ever heard that you should open a credit card? Don't open a credit card. Pay your credit cards off. Don't pay it off. Put 20% down. Don't put 20% down. Do a 15-year mortgage. Never do a 15-year mortgage. Pay off all your credit card debt before you buy a home. Buy a home. There's a lot of things we need to know to make sure that how we set this up for you is financially the best move for you. So it is a little bit in the setup, but that avatar that there's going to be more and more of people like that think of us as just a loan officer. And I just need this from you. Treat this like fast food restaurant. Just take my order and give me what I asked for. Those are the ones that you have to slow it down with the most and hit them very professionally, slap them in the face professionally of like, let me tell you what happens if we get this wrong. If we get this wrong and you have cancer, you're going to wish you would have spent 15 minutes. That's dramatic, but you guys get what I'm picking up. So, all right. Well, for those of you that are in Nerd Academy, I'm so excited. We've got our coaching call on Tuesday. I hope you guys are.
Is it too late? Can they is it too late to join Nerd Academy? Like, I feel like we're
no.
Okay.
This is I feel like the disconnect in our industry is that because of all of the tech, because of the new way of doing things, you can't just hop on an hour Zoom call or go to a mortgage coach conference and like learn what you need to be able to learn to implement. And so I found myself getting frustrated even with the last Nerd Academy is like, I'm telling you all these things to do, but you need micro learning with homework and assessments, and then try this, and then let's layer this, and then try this, and then let's layer this, and then let's do a live Q&A and figure out where you're getting stuck. To me, that's the best way to create change or growth. And so finally, I was able to figure out how to do this in micro learning sections with homework and to layer on this, what I would call modern way of, I want to take some of the really old school principles of this business, things that I've learned from Todd Duncan and my coach, Marty Preston, and the script training, but blend it into this modern world that we're in and really teach. It's like sales training and development of the skills you need to be a modern day mortgage advisor, like truly an advisor. And y'all know my passion is helping people make smarter financial decisions. I don't care if that's, should I lease or should I buy a car? But I think if you want a career in the mortgage space for the next 10 years, we have to sharpen up some of the tech school skills. We have to sharpen up some of the finance stuff, but the delivery of how we do things and our presentation styles and truly the tweaks that you have blind spots in that you can't see. I just think that there isn't anything out there that really teaches you the how in a layered approach so that you can freaking learn and do something with it. Like, I don't want you to have to be most coaching programs is like, pay me a monthly fee and stay with me forever. Like, I hope you don't have to stay with this forever. I hope you learn and make it better and teach me something. Honestly, I would love people to share, hey, I did this and I put this twist on it. I'm like, damn, that was awesome. I didn't even think about that. But it's just a layered training. So it's self-paced. You can join anytime. We have Zooms. Our first kickoff is Tuesday just because I launched it a week ago. But my goal is to prevent more mortgage people from leaving this industry. I think it's a very rewarding industry. I think we get a lot of freedom with it. We can do a lot of good. And I think that it's been hard, but it doesn't have to be hard. And so it's pretty exciting. But anyways, all right. Well, thank you guys.
Yes,
Have a
and
kick-ass
happy
end of the
Halloween.
year. Huh?
I said, and happy Halloween.
Yes, happy Halloween. Bye, y'all.
Bye. Oh, should we stay on? Oh, dang it. Denise is here. Usually we stay on, Denise.
What?
When you get
what are
off.
you talking about?
There's times where I've stayed on. Yeah. Looks like you haven't been
Y'all talk
watching
shit?
just a little bit. I'm just kidding.
Wow. Savage.
David,
Okay, bye.
I'm super, well, I'll stay on for a little bit because David, I love that you have recently joined the Nerd Academy and that you're with Plug and Play. So thank you for that.
You're welcome. I did talk with one of your associates, Anne,
Oh, good.
over at Plug and Play. Absolutely amazing. So
You know, she
guys,
used to be we hired her back when on the Nerd Squad. Like, she was a processor for us this was like probably 12 years ago, and she was getting her marketing degree. And so when I was creating Plug and Play on the side, I was like, I want her because she understands mortgage, obviously, and she's bilingual. Her first language is Spanish. So you'll probably see in some of the communications with her, I'm like, and the red line means you spelled it wrong, but she's super helpful and knowledgeable and very fantastic. So I'm glad you had a good experience with her.
yeah, we had a great conversation. She's like, I might get in trouble from Deb on this because I'm actually coaching you. Because we were talking about like short form versus long form, because you did the video about YouTube shorts kind of being a focus. And I'm like, well, should I strictly focus on YouTube shorts and TikTok? And that's when and then she called me, and I thought that was amazing too, and explained the why of, no, it's also important to do long form content. And here's the main reason of why people go to YouTube. So she was absolutely amazing. I love using the Plug and Play calendar. Love Mortgage Nerd Academy. I love following you guys. You guys are absolutely amazing.
Aww. Well, thank you for that. And have you decided on how many long form? Long form is like 7 to 10 minutes, by the way. Doesn't have to be, it can be 30 minutes or longer, but oftentimes people think long form is always like 20, 30 minutes when we see 7 to 10 minutes as a good starting point. But I definitely think you should be going all in on YouTube. And I don't think I've sent out my YouTube guide. I think it goes out actually tomorrow, of your checklist of like how to make sure your channel is set up correctly, how to make sure your like default upload settings are there, because a lot of times people aren't even tagging keywords, just like small tweaks that can go a long way. But YouTube, Google owns YouTube. And what I'm really going deeper on is how do I get my clients to show up in generative AI searches? Like, if I were to go to ChatGPT and say, who's the best loan officer for me when I'm a first-time home buyer? Like, Because that's going to be the competition of the future, is the AI empowered consumer. So I'm learning, how do you get a knowledge panel, which means you need your own website and you've got to verify your name within Google. Before you get that, you're not going to show up in any kind of, pattern for any AI to list you as a option.
And do you think that helps by when you build up your Google business profile by getting more and more and more reviews on Google? Do you think that helps out with the algorithm of that?
It does, but it's not going to help on generative AI search. So the business needs to be verified, but you as a person also needs to be verified. And that's what most people only have a Google business profile. That's not a knowledge panel for your personal name.
Because I've been through the Google business profile and got it all verified by having to send them pictures and waiting for Google to get back with me and stuff like that. So I've done, I got all of that set up, and now I'm just trying to build up the number of reviews, because I know that will start to make a difference, especially once you start getting into the double digits at least.
And if you can get it's a very delicate line of how you get them to write the reviews, but I know y'all are nationwide, but getting city or making sure they say your name, good communicate, kind of some key words based off what people search. I'm preparing for a world where I feel like less and less, TikTok is already, above Google. Instagram and TikTok are getting more search than Google is right now. Short form search of how to create or say down payment assistance programs. And my concern is of the future, we're going to see more and more people going to generative AI or Perplexity for AI search, because you don't have to decipher through all the published articles, and even Google's doing this now. It'll have AI to show you the top linked articles. But so long story short, it's almost like we have to be everywhere every day, and that's what feels so overwhelming. It's how do you keep your business, relevant and digitally present, so you can control the narrative, but also not consume all of your time, because you also have to do your day job.
Right. I mean, I find myself trying to create content and create value, and more importantly, okay, what do I think the clients feel is important versus what I feel is important, and connecting with them. I know you've talked about that on your videos. So now it's a matter of content creation and whatnot. And I like how a lot of your videos, it's a matter of creating different things, showing the 3D iPhone on the side and just engaging. And, I watched a recent Alex Hormozy YouTube video, and he talked about how, especially in YouTube, if you're not getting to the meat and potatoes within the first 8 seconds or something, getting right to the point, then people aren't going to stay on and listen. Well, and let me ask you this too, because you brought up a good point with artificial intelligence. Was any of that influenced by Apple releasing the artificial intelligence in their new iOS?
No, it was from a marketing mastermind group that I'm in, that they had a guest speaker come in and talk about AI. This was before Apple announced and released that. And it just made my mind go holy cow, this is coming a lot faster than I think any of us are even aware of. And I saw Ryan Grant, we do Ryan's content, and I've listened to y'all's last All Neo call, and he was talking about how, y'all have always skate where the puck is going, not where it's at, but we need to skate there faster. And I think it's potentially because he's heard some of the same things here recently, where it's okay, there's some big things coming that we need to get ahead of and prepare for. And it's not to scare people, but it's to protect the business. And what does the future hold? And then what is the exit strategy from here? Because I talk to loan officers all the time who they're 5 or 10 years away from being able or wanting to retire, but you can't really sell your book of business as a loan officer. So it feels like there's no exit, so, but no, not anything because of Apple. It's just, I'm thinking of the AI empowered consumer they're not going to lack information anymore. And it could be as easy as taking a picture of a house, and there's already tools that are assessing someone's bank account statements and can read their tax returns and can see like what their true affordability is. And it will give a DTI like that. And it'll show projections of cost over time. If I continue, like some of this stuff, because it's very math driven, AI will be able to do pretty easily with a push of a button of someone uploading their tax returns and bank statements, like better than we could, because it really shows the story of someone's income and also what they spend their money on, you know? So that's why I've gotten even more focused on it. And then also how so many, with the over inventory of social media and everyone kind of posting the same things and talking, like we have an oversupply. So how do you really stand out? And we're missing the fact that the person that you're talking to right now, like your next best referral is in the cell phone of the person you're serving right now. If we got better at asking and serving the people who we have. But so often we'll get so focused on the content creation and neglect either the experience once we have them in. And so we're always chasing. And so kind of goes back to your personal brand grows to the extent of your personal character. And we can't lose sight on automation and image and not go deeper with who we already have. And that is even like when you have people that start following you. I busted Ryan's chops on this because I was like, dude, Ryan, you just had a webinar. I see all these people start following you. Did you message? Like those are signals of interest. Did you message them? Why did they start? Did you ask them what did they think of the webinar? Like those are opportunities. And he was like, oh, I didn't even think about that. I'm like, you know, like, so it's just, and it, again, it can feel overwhelming, which is why you leverage out what you can with what you can afford. But it's little like tweaks to that where it's like, well, wait a minute, if I just did this webinar and I got all these, you know, maybe let's say it's 15 followers. Did they have any other questions? Like, why did they take what is the next little micro bridge where they may not want to go straight to an application or even a discovery call? Like some of the demographics love assessments. Like, is there a quiz I can take to see if how like home ready am I? What is my financial IQ kind of thing? There needs to be like these little micro bridges for the interest created so that then when they are ready, it's like, okay, this is helping me make some decisions without having to go on a 30-minute call because they fear wasting your time. And they also want your approval, as odd as that sounds.
Well, let me ask you this. Does that kind of lead into like how like in YouTube you can have playlists for like first time home buyers, investors, to where it's like little tips to where they can start to, it's almost like consumers want to educate themselves before talking to a human being.
100%. We do that with anything. Like, I mean, if I'm buying, I was looking up toilets for my upstairs because my kids are over wipers. And I'm like, I need commercial grade. So I don't want to go and talk to somebody. I'm going to do research on my own. And so when you set up your YouTube channel, I believe in setting it up almost like Netflix. Like you've got to make it binge worthy and think of what are the problems that these micro cohorts have and create playlists so that they can binge watch, because that's what there's two different markets. There's the markets of the people who are feeling frustrations and challenges and they know they need help with them. That's a bigger market. So challenges like that could be, you know, they've outgrown the family home. They don't know, should we rent it out? Should we sell it? Are we crazy for, like, how do you sell it? What neighborhood are there any homes available? Like there's felt pains, which is bigger. And then the smaller market is, I know I have a problem and I know the solution. Now I need to figure out which one's my best solution. That's a little bit smaller of a market. So when you go to Netflix, if you're feeling a rom-com or a documentary or a thriller, they make it easy for you to, based off your, you know, vibe, you can go to that section and find what you want easier. And that's what we're seeing more with YouTube. Plus it's different than like Instagram, where you could have an epic post, but it was months ago. Nobody's going to see it. This is evergreen content that, but you do have to make it easy for people, like going to a grocery store. There's aisles. so you can find what you're looking for. That's what the playlists do. So think of, first time home buyers, move up buyers, senior citizens are downsizing, reverse, new construction, luxury, jumbo. Even first time home buyer, you could break down to like single female or single male, or is this co-buying, or is this, a partnership that's not a marriage? Like there's so many different cohorts of even first time home buyers. Are they getting gift of equity? Were they living with family before, or were they renting? Like, but I do have to let you go because I have a call that starts right now.
Okay. Thanks, Deb.
All right.
Appreciate it.
Bye.